right, this stretch is the calf stretch with a step. What you're looking for is some sort of step-like or elevation, 1 to 2 inches in height that you can put the ball of your foot on in order to initiate the stretch. So you're going to put the ball of your foot on the step. You're going to make sure your heel is on the ground, and we need to keep that heel on the ground the whole time in order to get the stretch. You're going to step forward with the other foot, putting your weight leaning forward into this foot while we're keeping this heel down with the ball of your foot still on that step. Once you get to a point where you feel a gentle stretch, we don't want it to be agonizing, we want this to feel just some pull. You're going to hold 30 to 60 seconds. Once you've gotten to that point, you'll come up, switch your feet, same setup. Again, keeping the heel that we're trying to stretch down on the ground the whole time while our ball of the foot is on the step. You're pushing your weight into this forward foot and pushing that heel down to stretch that calf. All right, this is the hamstring stretch. You're going to use some sort of elevated surface, usually somewhere between 12 to 18 inches high. Depending upon how tight you are and your balance, you may need lower, or height-wise, you may need higher than 18 inches. But we're looking for something to elevated to start with. You want to make sure your hips are facing the surface you're going to put your foot on, not tilted away or around from it. Put your heel on the surface. From here, legs straight. You're going to point your toe to you, not away. That diminishes the stretch. Point the toe to you to initiate a beginning of a stretch sensation. We're going to feel it in the hamstring and then a little bit in the calves below the knee, depending upon how tight you are. From here, once the toe is pointed, if you need more of a stretch, you're going to bend from the hips and push your butt back. What I don't want you to do is collapse on your spine and bend this way. That doesn't get us a better stretch on the area of the hamstring that's actually tight. You're going to push your butt back. Once you hit a level of stretch, again, that's a gentle pull, not agonizing, hold for 30 to 60 seconds. Once you've hit that time, you'll come out of it and then switch to the other foot. Again, same process. Toe pointed to you. Hinge and bend from the hips to push the butt back. You may find one side is tighter than the other and you can't go quite as far. That's pretty typical. We just want to make sure that we keep stretching regularly in order to help get that more in balance. Again, 30 to 60 seconds, and then that is your hamstring stretch for both legs. All right, hip flexor stretch. We're working on trying to stretch this portion between the top of your hip and pelvic into your thigh. That causes muscles to pull tight into here. I prefer using an elevated surface rather than being on the floor. If you have to, you can be on the floor. What I found is a lot of us have trouble getting up and down on the floor, which diminishes what we can do for our stretching. I also like using an elevated surface for my height because it makes it easier to get into the hip flexor stretch as well. You're going to put one knee on your surface with the other leg still standing. You're going to step the other leg forward. In order to get the hip flexors to truly stretch, you have to engage your core, doing your draw in, and squeeze your glute, your butt muscles on the leg we want to stretch, and push your hips forward so your weight comes into this leg, keeping the core and the glutes active to help the hip flexors open and stretch. You'll hold this typically for 30 to 60 seconds. If this isn't enough of a stretch, your progressions first, you're going to take the arm that you're stretching, the arm on the side that you're stretching, up, and you're going to tilt away from that hip, and then you're going to turn towards the hip to amplify the stretch and the pull on those hip flexors even more. Again, don't add these two progressions until you get to a point where you cannot really get any more of a stretch in your starting position. Once you've held this for 30 to 60 seconds, you'll stand up, turn, do the same thing on the other side. Again, core has to be activated. Your glute, your butt muscles have to push your hips forward to really get those deep hip flexors to stretch for you. And again, progression, same arm comes up, we tilt away from the hip, and then we turn towards the hip to amplify some of those deeper hip flexor muscles into a stretch. And that is your hip flexor stretch. We're going to do a stretch for the gluteal area. This potentially, depending upon your tightness, go into your lower back as well. You want a seated position where you can be comfortably around a 90 or square bent at the knees. You're going to take one leg, let it go straight. Take the other leg, you're going to bring your foot over it. When you bend back into that position, you want to make sure the ankle is past this knee so it's not causing the foot to bend and roll in an uncomfortable position. From here, depending upon how tight you are, this may be enough. If you need more, you're going to hinge from the hips, not collapse on the spine. So what that looks like from the side, get in your position, then you're going to bend, hinge from the hips. This is the way we want it to look. What we don't want is just a collapse. This doesn't help the stretch. This one helps amplify the stretch from the gluteal area around your hips. If there's any tight lumbar muscles, you'll start to feel it in there. If you have too much tightness into your outer thigh along the IT band, it will also amplify into there. Hold 30 to 60 seconds. Once you've hit that time, you'll come out, then you'll switch legs. Again, it is typical to see one side tighter than the other. We want to stay diligent on our daily stretching in order to help get those back in balance and to get a better range of motion with our hinge from the hips. And that is your gluteal stretch.